What's the vibe, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Running Off the Screen. I'm the man they call Mac, and I'm joined again by my friend and host of the Live by the Three podcast, Curly. How's it going, brother?
I feel like it's deja vu again. Like we never left. I feel like we were just on pause, and now we're back at it again. No, I'm great, brother. Just excited to be on the pod again. I love that you're becoming more and more consistent because we need it. We need some positive vibes around these Raptors.
I mean, yeah, that's why I felt like it was a great opportunity to bring you back on because there's a lot to talk about. Trade deadlines next week, and the rumors are starting to heat up a little bit more, and we'll dive into that. But let's start with Precious. No, I know it sucks when people get injured, but seeing him plugged into the lineup now, does that put your mind at ease as far as our center position going forward? Do you think he's solidified himself as the starting center for the rest of his career with us?
I mean, it's hard to argue at this point. He has maximized every opportunity that he had to start this season. And like you mentioned, unfortunately, it's coming at the expense of an injury. And in this case, it's OG. But he is giving us a look that we've been yearning for at a position where unfortunately was not addressed in the offseason. And I know that Christian Koloko was supposed to be a cheap option to assist us in that area. Unfortunately, he's not helpful right now. Can he be that down the line? Absolutely. We've seen flashes of it. We've seen that even in the short stints that he's getting off the ground quicker. He's a little bit more locked in defensively. He's not as gambling as much. One of my biggest knocks against him was he would always leave his hands out. And players would just go right into it and then, foul trouble and then he's on the bench. But he's being a lot more disciplined and a lot more well-rounded. Well, so is Precious at a much more successive rate and a more efficient rate than Christian Koloko in this sense. And it almost feels like the way that OG started off the season is the way that Precious is now picking up where he left off. And because he has slowed down quite a bit. And unfortunately, maybe the way that the team is set up and the way that we run our system or lack thereof kind of limits his ability to be an effective player. Well, Precious doesn't care about that. He goes and gets it. And I think that's what we wanted to see. So in short, I am a lot more comfortable with Precious starting now, as it's not coming at an expense of, let's say, a Gary Trent Jr., where you would have been missing his offense. And let's be fair, we didn't expect this kind of offensive output from Precious Achiuwa. But I think what would be great to complement Precious, if we are going to keep him as a starter, I would love to see another big man coming off the bench to back him up. And maybe a different look. Precious fits that 6'9" vision, that versatility that, we hang our hat on. Have another big coming off the bench, a little bit more defensive-minded, a rim runner, a shot blocker, somebody like a build of a Bismack Biyombo, for example. Give the defense a different look, and then we can kind of have that interchangeable piece like we did in 2019 when you had Marc Gasol come in, and then you got Serge Ibaka. They both bring something similar but different at the same time. But I definitely love the idea of Precious starting moving forward.
I 100% agree. And you made a great point about a different look. I think what was lost in the Vision 6'9" stuff is, and I made an episode about it, is sometimes it's not making you more versatile. Sometimes it's turning you more redundant. It's making you too obvious because everyone's kind of the same player. When you have that chess piece to come in and say, okay, this guy's killing us inside. We need a 7-footer in there, a big body, just to put his hands up and get in the way, get some rebounds. We don't have that. So when we can't do it, we just don't do it. And with a change of look at that center position behind a Precious, who I feel has earned his starting spot now, uh, that would be the perfect fit for the Raptors. And now for Precious, the last 6 games, he's averaged 17 points, 10 rebounds while shooting 60% from the field. That is a great audition. Like this little period of games is a great audition moving forward, just for the front office to see that he is ready to contribute and get more responsibility and just be a solidified piece in our franchise. And not that they never had it, not that they had doubts, but it's just great to see him actually producing at a high level. And with Precious, like at this moment, it's coming at the perfect time because trade deadline is next week, like I mentioned, and there's big decisions to be made. With how we've been playing lately, better rotations defensively at times. We're not perfect yet, but you could see the energy and effort picking up. Has your stance changed with what you want done at the trade deadline for this team?
I'm just as stressed out as I was at the beginning of the season when the front office didn't address those deficiencies as I am now. Um, I do feel a little bit better because you were seeing what the front office was wanting to see in the early parts of the season. I think it's safe to say that the Raptors have not played up to their expectations. Individually, yes, you can go down the line as to who's playing better. Precious, Gary, Freddie as of late, Pascal at the start of the season, Scotty now. You can go down the line. Even Boucher deserves honorable mention. He's been playing well as of late. Has been inconsistent, but has been playing a lot better. But for some reason, they haven't been able to put it all together. Now, with the recent success, there has been still some of the growing pains because you have a great performance like you did against the Portland Trailblazers, absolutely dominating them, and then you play a Phoenix Suns team and it's more of the same. And I think there's numerous reasons for that: lack of role definition, lack of bench depth, or whatnot. I knew we had a problem at the beginning of the season, but it really came in. It really came all together once they were playing the Golden State Warriors and our 4 subs coming off the bench. We had 4 power forwards, and they had to guard the small guards of the Golden State Warriors. And I'm like, yeah, that is a bit of a problem. So I feel that consistency has evaded the Raptors, but we've also seen them at their best and at their worst at the same time. So if they are able to kind of clean it up defensively, doing the little things, there's always these moments in the game where, it's a poor rotation or it's a late rotation, or you take the Phoenix Suns game, for example. Gary Trent Jr. not boxing out Torrey Craig led to an offensive rebound and a wide open CP3 3. Then you have Pascal challenging Torrey Craig and force him to miss the layup, but Scotty Barnes isn't boxing out DeAndre Ayton. And I don't think there's many people that can box out DeAndre Ayton. He is 7'1", but at least put a body on him, and then it creates another opportunity. I think if the Raptors are able to clean that up, they'll be able to be more successful. However, they still need to address the bench depth. I think having, and now having Precious starting, that is one less capable body that is coming off the bench now. So you have to fill that void. Is Thaddeus Young the answer? Is Chris Boucher the answer? Is Juancho going to be the answer? We don't know. So I'd rather have some insurance policies in play for the Raptors to be successful. But in short, I do feel better. I'm just proceeding with caution.
You know that Juancho has like the lowest usage rate on it, or one of the lowest. I think he's like under 10%. I don't know. I don't like. I get what they were trying to do, bringing him in, getting someone who is savvy, has international experience, so he knows how to use ball movement. But as far as what we need, I don't know, man. I don't know.
He was supposed to be Bo Cruz. That's what he was supposed to be. No, Juancho has shown growth defensively, but that's not what we brought you here for. We brought you for your ability to space the floor, and it could be the way the Raptors are using him. It could be his reluctance to shoot the ball, but we've seen Juancho pass up open shots, and it's like, come on, man.
One too many. Yeah.
One too many. Like, we don't need that extra pass. And chances are when you're giving that extra pass, you're passing it to somebody that can't shoot the ball. So shoot the ball. That's what I want to see from you. Just do what you're supposed to do. You can still play good defense and take a couple threes because it's better than him going goose egg. You're playing anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes and all you're getting is 2 points. And chances are it's normally off a fast break or something of that nature, or maybe you get fouled and you split your free throws, whatever the case might be. But we struggle with spacing, and you're contributing to the problem of spacing rather than creating a solution. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's tough.
So quick question. If Masai was saying, okay, it's your call, he's tired of it, he doesn't want to take no more phone calls, and you have one trade you can make, what position would you focus on for this team? Just one move.
If Precious is going to be our big going forward, it would have to be another scoring guard. More particularly, somebody that can back up Freddie. I think that would be the priority if you're going to be moving Precious into the starting lineup. And I know there's quite the divide among the fan base as to what Freddie is to this team, what his value is, but take a look at the last few games. Hasn't always equaled out to wins, but where would we have been in that game had it not been Freddie? And let's give credit where it's due. He's not only hunting down his shots, he's creating opportunities for other players. He's averaging 9 assists, 10 assists. He had 9 assists last game, I believe, or against Portland. He had 10 assists on another game, 7, 6. So those playmaking numbers are going up, and he's not just shooting, he's also keeping pressure on the defense, finishing in the paint. It was something that we discussed. It was also something that we didn't think was going to happen, and he himself has expanded his game. So we need to find a way to alleviate some of that pressure, because we saw what the wear and tear did to him last season. We also saw what the wear and tear did to him this season. So I think the priority should be, at that point, try to get a scoring guard, or at minimum a decent backup point guard that can offer Freddie comfortable minutes and you're not losing your production. That's the direction I would go. How about you?
You know, I'm leaning in that direction as well, because we see Malachi Flynn, for what they want him to do, it doesn't seem like a good fit. Not that he's not a good player. I think he has a lot of skills that we could use if we had the better pieces around him. But we do need a guard who can get downhill, score at all 3 levels, and maybe someone who could finish above the rim. You don't have to be Vince Carter or anything, but someone who can finish over defenders and put some fear under that rim area, you know. But a center, man, it would be really good to get a veteran center to like help mentor, let's say, Koloko and even Precious. Precious is still young. So, man, but I would lean towards a guard. I agree with you. I think a guard spot is where we need the most help. Freddie is running out of energy. Now, if we wanted to make a playoff push, how far would we really make it? How much gas would we have left? So I think when you talk about the engine or the heart of our team, we need to preserve him as much as possible. So getting a guard would be if I had one move to do, would be the move I would make. And as some of our returning listeners may know, you know, I've been open to the idea of moving Anunoby for quite some time. And I outlined all of my reasoning and whatnot when we guested with Samson Folk on the Raptors Weekly podcast. And my stance, it hasn't changed, but on selling high on Anunoby, but it has changed in the sense of who we have to target, because as you could remember, I asked for Miles Turner. That's not going to happen now. He signed his extension. So we've seen reports of the Suns and the Knicks being in the mix, and I think I've seen some reports about Memphis as well. I'm not a fan of trading in the same conference, so I'll take Knicks out the list. Out of the Suns and the Grizzlies, who would you think would give you the better offer for Anunoby?
I think the Grizzlies, with the reports, especially from some of the trade rumor analysts that that are well respected around the league, trading OG Anunoby. I don't know who that is, but
Yeah.
I know Anunoby is.
Shams.
But I think the Grizzlies would be the better solution for the Raptors. They have a plethora of young talent. They also have a lot of picks. The Suns, while intriguing, don't seem to want to give up on their core, and rightfully so. I wouldn't want to break up that core either. But expecting us to break up our core and kind of settle for what you're willing to offer. I mean, Cam Johnson, I like Cam Johnson. I think he's a good two-way player. He's battled injuries. He's added to his game, but is he enough to pry away OG Anunoby? And respectfully, no, I don't think so. The Grizzlies have a lot more pieces that can assist the Raptors right now instead of down the line. And it also allows the Grizzlies some financial flexibility to, hone in on some key pieces like a Desmond Bane, who's going to be up for an extension sometime soon. And I think, did y'all sign an extension or?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did, right? Yeah. So, but they also have young players coming down the line that are going to be in line for a payday. So I think getting a player like OG kind of fits their brand, especially with Dylan Brooks with about a year left on his contract, or possibly less than. Is he a free agent at the end of the season? I think so.
I
No?
believe he has 1 year left. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So there would be a nice opportunity to kind of give you a little bit more of an insurance policy, a little bit more of a polished player. If you're drawing comparisons to Dylan Brooks, in my opinion, let's call it what it is. It would be an upgrade. So I think it would make sense for the Raptors and Grizzlies to be trade partners, as we would be able to help both teams out, both franchises out. Where do you stand?
Yeah, I believe the Grizzlies would be the smarter choice. They have the younger prospects. They have the picks. Now, Suns have picks as well, but when we're talking about prospects and picks, Memphis by a mile would probably give you better return. If you're looking at I'm just doing this off the cuff. It could be any combination of players, but if you're saying Tyus Jones, you could bring us Tyus Jones, give us a solidified top level backup point guard, proven to be the best backup point guard in the league year in, year out. Brandon Clark, give you another athletic big off the bench, and then you get prospect forward in David Roddy, throw in some couple picks. I don't see why Memphis would say no. Maybe Raptors will say no. Maybe they want more for OG and probably throw in Birch for cap purposes. And then if I see the Suns, you see Cam Johnson, like you mentioned. They're probably going to want to move Crowder. I don't think we'll take Crowder, so maybe Sarge and Biombo and Pigs. That doesn't look as a long-term fix, or a long-term process in that type of deal. When I look at what the Grizzlies,
it's not as sexy. It's not as sexy. It's not a sexy deal.
Yeah. So I would definitely be on the phone with Memphis if OG wants to leave. If he doesn't, we're still in a weird predicament, because when he comes back, what happens to that starting lineup? I feel like we can all agree that Gary Trent Jr. has earned that starting spot. He's been doing his job to the T. What we brought him here to do, he's been doing it, and it sucks that we're not winning as much. He's doing what he's supposed to do and more, and then we just kind of have to cut him loose, or have the thoughts to cut him loose instead of just signing him back. Because why would you not reward a player who is stepping up and becoming the player who you thought he was going to be at 23 years old? We're in a tough spot right now with our roster, and I think
I want to add that he's a player that wants to be here.
Yes,
we still deal with that stigma that players don't want to come here and so on and so forth. Now, we don't know what's going on with OG. We see reports. We saw him deny the story, but he only denied him leaking the story. He didn't deny that the story is not true, or it could be true. We don't know for sure.
I think he said something to the effect that it was out of context.
Out of context?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
what is the context then, right? That's the question.
Right, but I mean, we also see what OG gives in interviews, so chances are people are trying to make something out of nothing. But for me, my position is it's been a consistent rumor, and we heard it more than once. And I truly believe behind every rumor, there's some truth. It might not be the whole truth, but there might be a little bit of truth behind it. And, you know, I think it's particularly frustrating on the OG side of things, dealing with injuries, having great starts and not having great finish. And then he had a great start to the season, and then mid-season he kind of ran out of gas, and now he's injured. So it's more of the same. That could be particularly frustrating as well. But I think, with the emergence of, or at least the consistent play of Gary Trent and his development, because he's not just a shooter, he's getting to the rim. Basically, Gary Trent Jr. has improved in all the areas that we needed him to improve on at a young age. And now we have Precious Achiuwa taking the opportunity and running with it. So do you want to mess that up right now? Is it a worthy problem? I think it's up for debate, but it's kind of hard to imagine what this team will look like if we don't make a move. You know what I mean? It's a crazy thought. Like, it can go one or two ways, and I don't think there's any in between. It could be much of what we did last season: capture lightning in a bottle, run with it to the playoffs. But then, with the lack of depth on the bench, we run out of gas, and it's an early exit. Or we can be much of the same of what we've been: an inconsistent team, possibly a lottery team, and then we build that way. But it all goes against what Masai envisioned for this team. So I don't see it happening, but it's such a weird spot to be in because we can go either way.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head there, because you're right. They can approach this trade deadline and say, okay, we know our top 6 players will bring it every night. They will hold it down for us. Let's just shake up the bench and see if we can have a little bit of a run, build some momentum, and end the season on a high note. But they could say, well, play in for what? We're not going to win a championship. Let's blow it up. That's why I think a lot of these reporters or beat reporters or whatever, they're trying to push it as the Raptors are holding up the market, because they can go in any which way, any direction. If you're a tanking team, they might be calling you, or if you are a contending team, they might be calling you. It's just such a weird spot right now for Raptors basketball. I just want a move to be done. I don't care which one. I don't care who goes. I'm not emotionally attached to any player. I love the team. I've been a fan forever. I don't need to be doing the spiel, right? But we just need to see a direction. We just need to see a thought process behind what we're doing, because right now, we win a game, it feels great. We lose a game, we're looking at draft boards. What are we really trying to get out of this season? That's what this next week is going to show us about this team.
Yeah, I can't argue that. I really can't argue that. It's something that we've discussed last season, even previewing this last season as well. A lot of what we said came to fruition. We saw that the deficiencies were going to be a problem. It continues to be a problem. We also said the lack of bench depth was going to be a problem. It continues to be a problem. Now, I've had many discussions with people online about this team going into the season, and the position was they're gambling on continuity. There's nothing wrong with that. But you saw very early that it was not working. And we also saw the lack of opportunity for the young players on this team. And I think we can all agree that there was a lot of experimentation in the early parts of the season. But I think after the 25 game mark, even the 30 game mark, you kind of got a sense as to what this team is, and they've fallen short of all expectations. So that should have been a very early indicator that continuity might not be the best thing for this team. Is it safe to say that, or can we say, I should say, not safe to say, but can we say that this team has peaked with this current group of guys? I mean, the record kind of reflects that a little bit. Something needs to get done. And I think that's the important takeaway from what you said. Something needs to get done. They need to make a move. If you're not going to break up the core, address the bench depth. There's about $30 million tied up between players that don't get consistent minutes. And even earlier on in the season, Precious Achua wasn't getting consistent minutes for whatever reason, and then Boucher fell out of the rotation. Those are guys that you brought back and guys that you sought after in a trade, and then you're limiting those opportunities. So it kind of coincides with what you said about this lack of direction. Commit to an idea. Even if the Raptors don't make a play-in, don't even make the playoffs, and they're not even competing for the play-in. I just want to see what you are going to do to help this team in the future, because there's a lot of pending free agents. And let's say hypothetically, and I know this is probably not going to happen, but that's a hypothetical. Let's just say Pascal, Freddie, and Gary Trent Jr. walks. Who is next up to replace them?
I mean, at the guard spot, it gets scary.
It gets scary. You have Precious, you still have Scotty, but then who else? And I think that's where some of the problems are for the Raptors right now. They don't have any youth, or youth that they see can fit with this team long term, and maybe even short term. We don't know. But we're not seeing the opportunities being presented for them. Maybe they're not as high on them as they once were. So what are you going to do to rectify that problem? I'm not taking anything away from those guys on the back end of the bench. They are talented players. We've seen flashes of it. We've seen it during the summer league. We know that they are capable, but for whatever reason, they're not getting the opportunity. Okay, so if you're not giving them the opportunity, what is the next step? Go and address the bench, either via trade or stop drafting projects. Let's do that. Let's stop drafting projects. Let's draft the best player available. And I know it's easy to say because every draft player is a prospect, and or even a project even. But it seems like the Raptors tend to shy away from more skilled or players that specialize in a certain area.
True hoopers. Yeah.
True hoopers, and go for the guys that they can mold in their image, which to a point is great, but even that has its limitations. So something's got to give, man. And I don't know if it's going to be at this trade deadline, because it's giving me the Kyle Lowry vibes when he was about to be traded around trade deadline. All this conversation was going on, and then nothing happened, and then we know how all that played out. So I don't know, man.
I feel with this situation, it can get way more chaotic than the Lowry one, obviously, because there's way more players at stake here, right? You have Fred, you have Gary, and you have OG all at once. So I feel like they got to address one of those things at the trade deadline, if it's the bench or if it's moving one of the starters, and then deal with the rest in the offseason, because it can get really messy real quick with this team. Sell high. You know, we mentioned earlier with OG, he misses a lot of games. It is what it is. He's a great player, but can you rely on him to play over 60 games a year? I don't know. The last 3 or 4, he's been under 50, I think. I don't quote me on that, but it just, I don't know. It just seems like it's time. It's time for someone to get out there. I know everyone's saying this, but We just need to put it into fruition. We just need to manifest this to happen. Because for the love of God, we need some type of direction for these guys. And I feel sorry for the guys on the bench. You saying Malachi will play 20 minutes this game, 0 this next game. Boucher, like you mentioned, had the DMPs and come back and perform well. It's like, bro, what are we doing? Are you developing or are you trying to win? Because we're not winning, so let's develop. Or you're not going to develop and you're going to lose. What are we doing with this season?
Yeah, and I think that's incredibly frustrating for the guys as well. And you know, I feel bad for Pascal, and we can all share our sympathy for all the players, but I mean Pascal is the engine of this team, and we can see the significant drop of play off of him, and it could definitely be the fatigue factor. And I thought at minimum that should have been a priority. Find help for Pascal and get a backup for Freddie. Now, I'm not saying that this team isn't good enough, because they are good enough, and we see that from time to time. It just has not been consistent. But I think, one other point that I think that we failed to acknowledge is that I definitely feel that the Raptors' lack of moves this season was hindering on the success of Scottie Barnes. And I think that in the early part of the season, we didn't really see it. We saw a glimpse of it. Now we're seeing him kind of recapture his form. He's becoming more of a playmaker. It's opening up more opportunities for him. He's hunting down those mismatches. He's hunting down those opportunities. Essentially, he's basically Pascal Jr. right now. He's doing the exact things that Pascal is doing. And I feel that kind of slowed the progression of things. But I thought that the start of the season, where Pascal was playing like an MVP type player, and having him still do that heavy lifting after the injury, it was just too much. And now we're seeing the effects of it. We're seeing the fatigue be a factor. We're seeing that, you know, the logging of heavy minutes is costing us basketball games. And yeah, it's just a tough stretch for these guys, because they're competing. And I've said this multiple times on my podcast. The Raptors will always go down swinging, but do they always need to be in that position? Do they always have to have their backs against the wall? So can we get these guys some help? And we can. we definitely can. It's just a matter of, will we do it?
Exactly. And sorry, I wanted to correct something I said earlier. I said Gary's 23. He turned 24 in January. I remember now. He's 24 years old. But anyway, yeah, you make good points. And I think one thing too that you got to think about is their primes. Like when is a player's prime over with? Like, I know LeBron is he's an anomaly. Like, I don't know how he's doing what he's doing at his age, but not every player can do that. You see Kyle Lowry kind of declining a bit recently at the guard spot. So Fred is what, 28, 29-ish. Pascal as well. Do you think this team can be a contender within their prime? Do you think that we're going to have to move on in that time?
I think we can. And it could be the fan in me talking. It could be a homer take, but I definitely do feel that we can contend. Pascal has shown the ability to lead this team. He hasn't been able to do it lately, but he also has shown the ability to do it. Freddie has qualities that any team that's contending would want. So I feel that those are two very good pieces to start with, to lay the foundation on. You got a young superstar in the making. I don't need to ask your opinion on that. We know that Scottie Barnes will be a superstar if things continue to trend well. So that's another key piece there. You have the emergence of Precious Achiuwa. So there's a lot of pieces here. So what can we do to help take them over the top? Well, we gambled on continuity. The teams around us made improvements to their roster. The Boston Celtics went out and got Malcolm Brogdon because Jason Tatum had a terrible finals handling the ball, and they went out and they got him help. The Philadelphia 76ers went out and got more switchable players, more versatile players, perimeter shooting, an additional ball handler to help alleviate some of their frustrations. The New York Knicks went out and got a point guard. They have been on the wrong end of jokes for a serious amount of time. But they knew that they had a need, and people can call it an overpay. But Jalen Brunson, in my humble opinion, should be an all-star, and that is worth every single penny. That is something that the Raptors need to do. And I think if you got those guys going forward, and I left out Gary Trent, my apologies. So we got 5 guys to be building around. Should they bring them back? Let's get them the support. And I think that if we can turn some of that, I hate to say it, but the dead money on the bench, and we can turn that into quality players or serviceable players that can help us, maintain a certain level of production. Because I think one of the bigger issues that we've had, we take the starters off, we have a 10-point lead, we put the starters back in, we're down 15. And it's been like that for quite some time. Let's shore up our bench. Let's get some quality players. Let's draft some specialists, like you said, true hoopers, and let's give the guys the support that we need. Because at the end of the day, as much as we want to hang our hat on defense, this is a scoring league. I think we have 9 players leading the league in scoring with over 30 points. So if that's not an obvious indicator that you need to find bodies or people that can keep you in these games, because all it takes is one of these guys to have a great night, and then you're gonna be down maybe 10, 20, even 30 points if these guys decide to go on a 30, 40, 50 point performance.
Man, yeah, again, I agree. And I think the other thing with that is shoring up the bench obviously should be a priority, because how much is going to be left? Let's say you make the playoffs. How much is going to be left out of your players, right? And I think I mentioned that earlier. And so All-Star Weekend is coming up. If things stay the way I think it's going to stay, I don't think any Raptor is going to be participating on the Saturday festivities, the dunk contest, skills challenge, and whatnot. Maybe the skills challenge. Maybe Scotty might come back and try and redeem himself from those. From those. But if we were to have a Raptors only All-Star Weekend, I wanted your perspective on who you think would win each contest. Now, if we start with the skills challenge, not the team version, we can do the individual one with the fastest time each round moves on. Which of these 6 players do you have winning? So you have Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., Scotty Barnes, Pascal, Precious, and OG. Who wins the skills challenge?
I think Pascal. I would lean Pascal because I have another Raptor for another contest, and I don't want him to clean sweep the performance. You know what I mean? or clean sweep the weekend. I think Pascal has shown the ability to win that competition. I mean, he play makes. He's shooting the ball better this season. He can finish at the rim. We know that's his bread and butter. And I think he just has the skill set to just run away with that competition. But an honorable mention would be Scotty Barnes. Though I think, and we have seen him struggle with a jump shot at an all-star game.
And a layup. But well, I picked Pascal as well because, the man calls himself P Skills. It would be really hilarious that a guy named P Skills loses the Raptors skills challenge. So 3-point shootout. We have Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., Malachi Flynn. I put our boy Flynn in there. OG again, and Pascal. Who wins the 3-point shootout?
I think we've seen what happened to Fred, and I think it was just a bad shooting night. But I want to see Gary Trent Jr. shoot in the 3-point shootout. We see him do it in game, but shooting in the competition is very, very different. So I'm curious to see how he would perform. But I also feel that he's a microwave, so all it takes is one, and then he'll go on a heater. So I'm gonna lean Gary Trent Jr. on this one.
Wow, we have the same answers again. So I picked Gary as well.
This is not as fun anymore.
Yeah, there's no debate. I should just repeat what you said. But yeah, Gary seems like he would do good in those type of competitions. Spot up shooter. Once he has that facial expression when he shoots, more often than not, it's gonna go in. So I have him winning that. Now
he's a cold-blooded killer, man. Like he shows no emotion sometimes. It's crazy. You can't tell if he's happy or mad. It's crazy.
Because once he gets between those lines, he's locked in. He really, really loves what he's doing. You could tell he's really passionate about the game, and that's why I would feel horrible if we got rid of him, like just for nothing. Because people are saying 20 million isn't like Tyler Hero is gonna be making 30. I know Hero is better than if it's going skill for skill, but for what the Raptors need, I think you can pay a 20 mil for Gary Trent Jr. The salary cap is going up. It's not going to be that. It's not going to look as bad as people think it's going to be in a couple years.
Yeah, I agree. But I also feel that we always get too caught up, and I don't want to stray away too much, but we always get too caught up about what these players are making and what they're worth. I think it's different from team to team. What is that player worth? What is that player worth to you?
Exactly.
Do you appreciate their skill set and their ability to help your team enough that you're going to compensate them for them? Do you have enough belief in them that they are going to be an active contributor to this team and to your future? And I feel that Gary Trent has definitely solidified that. He's an important piece to this growing puzzle known as the Toronto Raptors. And like I said, if we lose him, who's the next man up? And I don't think that a price tag should really affect them on that. And I mean, this is MLSE, Rodgers and Bell. Like, come on, man.
Pay up.
Like, pay up, man.
I mean, yeah, the biggest response to that is like, what's the alternative? Like, what are you bringing in if you're not going to bring him back? A rookie?
And that's right. And that's why I'm not on the tanking side of things, because what's the recourse? It's easy to say tank, and it's easy to say, okay, go for the highest draft pick. But we've seen high draft picks end up being a bust, and they don't work out. Right?
Yeah, bank on the sure thing. That's what the NBA taught us. Bank on the sure thing.
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay, so we have the main event, the dunk contest. We have Scotty, Precious, OG again. He's winning in every contest. We haven't had him winning. Pascal, and I'll throw Boucher in there. I've seen him do some nice stuff in warm-ups. Who wins the dunk contest?
Okay, let's say our answer on 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Scotty.
Precious.
Okay, we got it.
There it is. So what's your reasoning behind Scotty?
I saw Scotty at the Ball Don't Stop Pro-Am. I saw him put down some crazy dunks, man, and I see it. He has the length, he has the athleticism, he has the confidence, he has the showmanship. I was gonna say OG because I saw him do that 360 in game, so I want to see if his showmanship would show up in the dunk off.
That's a good point. He missed a 360 through the legs in the Rising Stars game that year.
Right.
Yeah,
So
it was pretty close. Yeah,
and I mean he's a freakish athlete. Like he is crazy athletic, man. But it's a little bit biased when it comes to Scotty. I saw what he did in the Pro-Am, and I think that he would just run away with it. And he might do something crazy. Like, how Blake Griffin jumped over one car, he might jump over 2.
Yeah, he seems like he'd be ambitious. Yeah.
Yeah.
I picked Precious because I seen him participate in the McDonald's dunk contest a few years ago, and
yes, I forgot about that.
He had some finesse in his dunks. I think with some more guidance, maybe get Chuck the Boss that dunk on, what's his name? Team Flight Brothers, the coach
Right.
there. If he had some guidance, I think he could pull off some nice stuff too. He's obviously our best athlete. If you're not talking about OG, he's up there as one of our best athletes. So I think he would do a good job in that contest for us.
I want to see Precious dunk off 2 feet, because a lot of his stuff is off one
stride,
leg,
yeah,
right?
off stride
and off stride. I would want to see, what's it like for him to jump up on 2. I don't know, man. It would be interesting to say the least.
Man, they should do this. Like somebody needs to do like a charity event. One of the Raptors, maybe a Scotty weekend, or I know what's his name, Ennis. I forgot his name, but he coined the term spice and dice for Pascal and Freddie, and I always thought that it would be a good idea to have a spice and dice weekend in Toronto, and then have like a festival, a charity game, and then you could have like a dunk contest with the Raptors and stuff. I think that'd be a cool idea.
There was a former Raptor that used to put on some crazy charity games. Those Vince Carter charity games were classics, man.
Man, and even Scotty, if he ran that, he has a lot of connects with the young guys like Jalen Green and Cade Cunningham, and he could be bringing those guys into the city as they grow in their careers and entertain the crowd. I think that'd be a great idea.
I think so too.
Yeah, hopefully they snip this and play the MLSC and see what they could do.
Well, what's interesting is that I spoke to Ball Don't Stop. I don't want to butcher his name, but the host for Ball Don't Stop, he put on the Pro-Am, and he said that this was a trial run for this past summer, and he wanted to see what the turnout was going to be like. He said he had to turn people away, that the demand was so high, and it was done at University of Toronto, and it was jam-packed, and he's hoping that he can be a little bit more ambitious and get a bigger venue. I don't know, like a Scotiabank Arena, quite possibly. I mean, going from 3,000 to almost 20,000
that's a jump.
It's huge. it's huge, but I think that he said that he wants to do it again, and I think that says a lot about what basketball means to the city, and we definitely have the foundation for it. We have the groundwork already laid out, and now we got the WNBA thing coming here, and I'm personally excited about that, because I definitely thought that we can have that market here, and we can support it, and it just seems like it's a great time to capitalize on all these things. So if we can get a player like Scotty Barnes to put on a charity game, that would just kind of keep the ball rolling, so to speak, in terms of Toronto basketball and Canada basketball for that matter.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to end the episode. Anything you want to plug for the next week or so?
Well, check me out on the Live by the 3 Raptors podcast. I'm available on iHeartRadio now, but still on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever your favorite platforms are. I am there. Give me a follow on Twitter at LiveByThe03, and I'm on Instagram as well at LiveByThe3. Follow, hit me up if you want to talk hoops. If there is something that you don't like and you want to discuss it personally, shoot us a DM. But Mac, thank you for having me, brother. Continue doing what you're doing. I love the consistency. I love the activity online. I think that you are one of the best basketball minds online, and I'm not just saying that because you're my boy and we're brothers. You are a great basketball mind. You have a lot of thoughtful opinions. You support those thoughts. It's not you're pulling them out of thin air. You love ball. I love the passion. So continue to share that with everyone, brother. And I'm here to support it.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. And I'll try my best. Like, we talk offline and my life is hectic as hell. I don't like to get into my personal stuff, but yeah, you know how it is. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. And like always, please remember to like, subscribe, and raise the vibe. Peace.
Peace.